My wife teared up when a photo memory from her college trip popped up on her phone. She stared at it and whispered, "I miss who we were." I stayed quiet. That night, I packed my things. Left a note. "Go chase your memories. Now she's at my friend's apartment door crying, 'Please come back.'" It started with the sound of a spoon clinking against a mug. I was standing at the kitchen counter, stirring a splash of honey into my tea. The kettle had just whistled, steam still curling out. Outside, the sky was barely blue, just that sleepy, grayish morning color that meant another long day ahead. Marissa was sitting at the table, cradling her phone in both hands. She wasn't saying anything, just scrolling the way people do when they're not really awake yet. She had this old red flannel robe wrapped around her, hair tied up in one of those messy top knots. Everything about it should have felt normal, familiar, but something shifted. I heard her breath catch. Not loud, just a tiny, broken inhale like she'd forgotten how her worked for a second. When I looked over, she wasn't moving. Her thumb was frozen mid-scroll. Her mouth slightly open, eyes glassy. I set the mug down, careful not to make a sound. "Everything okay?" I asked. She didn't answer. Her face just dropped. Whatever expression she had been wearing, sleepy, distant, distracted, was gone. In its place was something sadder, far away. Then, without looking up, she whispered, "I miss who we were." My stomach clenched. I didn't even know what I expected her to say, but it sure as hell wasn't that. I stayed quiet. Too quiet. Something about the way she said it. It wasn't about us. Not really. I knew that look. I'd seen it before in people's faces when they were looking at something they shouldn't be looking at. Old photos, old texts, things better left in the past. I took a step toward her. "What were you looking at just now?" I asked. She blinked, like she forgot I was even in the room. Then she finally turned the screen toward me. Just for a second. An old photo memory. Not of us. Not even of our kids. It was her and Eric. I recognized the setting, some road trip they took back before she and I even met. He was smiling like a movie star. She had her legs propped on the dashboard. It looked like freedom. Like youth. She turned the screen back, swiped it away. I opened my mouth to say something. I don't even know what. But nothing came out. "Sorry," she said, her voice low, like she knew she'd crossed a line. "It just popped up. You know how these damn phones are." I nodded. And then I did the thing I still don't know if I regret. I didn't ask anything else. I didn't say I was hurt. I didn't get mad or accuse her of anything. I just stood there, like a guy waiting for a bus that was never coming. I picked up my mug, took a sip, and forced a swallow. "Yeah," I said. "Phones are weird like that." And that was it. That was the start. Not a fight. Not a lie. Just a little silence that settled like a crack in old paint. Small, but spreading. She looked back down at her phone. I looked out the window. The kettle was still hissing. We didn't speak again until I left for work. And the fracture, quiet as it was, had already begun. The rest of the day felt like I was floating above my own life. I got to the office around 8, same as always. Parked in the usual spot. Swiped my badge. Nodded at a few guys on the shop floor. Went to my desk. But nothing felt real. Emails piled up. I answered maybe 2. Most of the time, I just stared at the screen, rereading the same project specs 3 or 4 times without taking in a single word. My coworker Tony popped his head into my cubicle around 11. "You good, man?" I must have looked bad hollow, maybe. I faked a half smile and nodded. "Yeah, just tired." He lingered a second too long. "All right, if you say so." I turned back to the monitor, but I wasn't seeing any of it. My mind kept drifting to that morning. Her voice. That damn photo. Miss who we were. That one sentence had spun the world off its axis. And the worst part? She didn't even mean to hurt me. That's what made it sting more. It was just truth, slipping out of her like a sigh. That kind of honesty cuts deeper than screaming ever could. By lunchtime, I stopped pretending. I told my manager I wasn't feeling well and drove straight home. I didn't even stop for food. The house was quiet. Too clean, too still. I moved through it like a stranger. The kitchen still smelled faintly of her coffee. The throw blanket on the couch was where she'd left it that morning. One of her bobby pins was on the bathroom sink. I stood in our bedroom for a long time. Then I opened the closet and started packing. Not everything. Just the essentials. A few days' worth of clothes. Shaving kit. Laptop. Chargers. Nothing that would scream permanent. I didn't want to make it dramatic. I didn't even want her to see me go. I just knew I couldn't stay, not after seeing her face look at a memory like that. Not after hearing her say what she said and act like it was nothing. I grabbed a notebook from the nightstand drawer. I wrote slowly, pressing hard into the page. I need space. I need time. I'm not angry. I'm just tired of wondering what we are now. I'll call when I can. I signed it with my name. Just Nick. No, love. No, always. I took off my wedding ring and placed it beside the note. Then I walked out the front door and didn't look back. No suitcase rolling behind me. No slamming of doors. Just the sound of gravel crunching under my boots and the dull thud of the screen door swinging shut. I didn't know where I was going yet. I just knew it had to be away. Away from that kitchen, away from that photo, away from the silence that was already suffocating us both. I ended up at the Horizon Lodge off Route 17. It was the kind of place you only notice when you're desperate. One story, peeling paint, parking lot cracked and faded. But the sign outside promised free Wi-Fi and weekly rates, and that was enough for now. The woman at the front desk didn't ask any questions. Just slid me a key card and pointed toward roommate. The room smelled like bleach and cheap air freshener. One bed, one chair, a TV bolted to the wall. The blanket was a stiff floral thing, scratchy as hell. Still, I dropped my bag on the floor and sat on the edge of the mattress, staring at nothing. No sound except the buzz of a dying light bulb in the bathroom and the hum of the mini-fridge. I turned my phone off before Marissa could reach out, if she even planned to. After a while, I dug out my phone again and scrolled through my contacts until I found Adam's name. He answered on the third ring. Well, damn. I figured you were dead or living in a bunker. You okay? Not really, I said. My voice cracked more than I meant it to. Can I come by? He didn't hesitate. You're already halfway here, aren't you? I showed up at Adam's place just before 6. He opened the door wearing basketball shorts, no shirt, holding a beer in one hand and a slice of cold pizza in the other. Jesus, man, he said, stepping aside. You look like someone told you your truck died. I didn't answer. Just walked in and stood in his tiny living room, unsure what to do with my hands. Adam set the beer down and clapped me on the back. Whatever happened, you don't gotta say it all now. Just sit. We didn't talk much at first. He gave me a beer, handed me a plate, turned on the game. We sat there in silence, watching two teams we didn't care about, just letting the background noise do the work. Eventually, I spoke. She looked at a photo of her ex this morning and said she missed who we were. Adam didn't say anything, just nodded slowly like he'd already guessed more than I told him. She didn't even hide it, I added. Just showed me the picture, then went back to scrolling. He leaned back in his chair. So you packed up and left? Yeah. He sipped his drink. Good. I looked at him. You always hated her. I didn't hate her, he said, then paused. I just never liked how you changed around her. You used to talk. You used to be loud, man. With her, you got small. I stared down at the condensation on my bottle. I don't even know if I overreacted. Maybe I'm just insecure. Adam shook his head. Nah, you're not wrong for feeling what you feel. You saw her looking back at something like it was better than now. That'd gut anybody. And for the first time all day, something loosened in my chest. I wasn't okay. But at least now, I wasn't alone. Adam's apartment was quiet except for the faint tick of the wall clock and the hum of the fridge. I was sitting on his busted old futon, trying to figure out if I'd made the biggest mistake of my life or just the first honest decision in a long time, when there was a knock at the door. Not soft. Not curious. Hard. Purposeful. Adam looked at me. You expecting someone? I shook my head. He stood up, walked to the door, and opened it halfway. His body stiffened. Then he glanced back at me. It's her. I stood slowly. Marissa stepped inside before I even said anything. She looked rough, eyes puffy, sweatshirt hanging off one shoulder, no makeup, like she hadn't slept. Her gaze swept the apartment, took in the mess, the open beer cans, me. Hi, she said. I didn't answer. She shifted her weight. I've been looking for you. Adam raised a brow at me, then gave a little nod before grabbing his keys off the counter. I'm gonna run out for a bit. He left without another word. Now it was just us. Me and Marissa. In Adam's apartment, surrounded by the faint smell of old pizza and takeout containers. I wasn't looking at Eric, she said suddenly. I crossed my arms. Could have fooled me. She stepped forward a little, not close, but enough to make it feel like she wasn't just talking to the room. It was a memory, yeah, from that trip we took after college. But it wasn't about him. It was about who I was then. I didn't respond. She kept going. I wasn't missing him. I was missing that feeling. That time in my life when everything felt open. Light. Like I had options. Like I was free. I let out a short laugh. And what am I? The chain that tied you down. Her face crumpled. No. God, no. Nick. That's not what I meant. I looked away, jaw clenched. You didn't say it. But you didn't stop it either. You looked at that photo like he was the one that got away. You looked at him the way you don't look at me anymore. Silence stretched between us. I didn't think it would hurt you like that, she said finally, voice barely a whisper. Then maybe you don't know me at all. Her eyes flashed, and for the first time, she stepped toward me with some heat. I'm not the only one who forgot who we are, Nick. You shut down. You bury stuff. You haven't touched me in weeks unless it's out of habit. And when I try to talk to you, it's like you're 1,000 miles away. You said you missed who we were, I snapped. What was I supposed to think? That maybe I was grieving the version of us that used to laugh, that used to sit on the floor with takeout and talk about nothing for hours. That maybe I was hurting too. I stared at her. I didn't leave, she said, her voice trembling. You did. And there it was. The line drawn between us. Her pain. My pain. Both real. Both valid. Both totally incompatible in that moment. I don't even know what's true anymore, I said, stepping back. Marissa wiped at her cheek. Neither do I. And just like that, the argument ended. Not because we were done, but because we didn't know where else to go from there. The days that followed were quiet in a strange, heavy way. Adam didn't ask questions. He just handed me the remote when I came home from work and tossed another beer into the freezer to chill faster. I'd crash on the futon, scrolling aimlessly through my phone until I couldn't keep my eyes open anymore. And still, every morning, I'd wake up thinking about her. I didn't call. She didn't either, not directly. But she sent messages. Little things. One-liners. Hope you're okay. Left your hoodie on the porch if you want it. Made chili. Yours is in the fridge if you stop by. Each one ended with a word that gutted me every time. Love, M. I didn't answer, but I read every one. One night, just before midnight, I was lying on the futon with the TV muted when I got a notification. Marissa had posted an album on social media. It was titled Before and After Us. I almost didn't click, but curiosity won. It was a collection of photos from the last few years. Us at the lake. At that diner with the neon signs. Her laughing at something I was saying, head tilted back, eyes crinkled. Me passed out on the couch with her feet on my lap. Her asleep on my shoulder in the passenger seat. Birthday cakes. Movie nights. Grocery store selfies. There were no captions. Just dates. But I knew the look on her face in every single one. That soft, open expression. The one I thought I saw that morning when she looked at her past. When I was convinced it was for someone else. But it wasn't. Not really. That expression, the ache, the longing, the weight of old memories. I saw it in these pictures. Dozens of them. Only now I realized it had always been pointed at me. I stared at a shot of us from 2 years ago, both of us standing in our messy kitchen, her in pajama pants, me holding a spatula like an idiot. She was looking right at me, smiling like she'd won the lottery, and I hadn't seen it. I'd been so focused on that 1 second, that one moment in time with that stupid photo, that I missed the bigger truth. She'd been missing us. Us, not him. I set the phone down, my stomach twisted in knots. My certainty cracked under the weight of all those images, all those memories. Maybe I hadn't been as right as I thought. And for the first time since I walked out, I started to wonder if I should have stayed. It was a Thursday evening when I pulled back into our driveway. The porch light was on, just like always. One of the bulbs was flickering. The flower pots she kept by the steps were still there, dry but upright. Familiar things, little things. I didn't text. I didn't knock. I opened the front door slowly, almost expecting it to creak. It didn't. Just gave way with that quiet sigh it always made when the weather changed. The house smelled like garlic and tomatoes. She was in the kitchen, back turned to me, stirring something on the stove. Hair in a loose bun. Music playing low from her phone on the counter. Some acoustic cover of an old Fleetwood Mac song. She didn't hear me right away. I just stood there for a second, watching her. She looked like home. When she finally turned and saw me, her hand stilled on the spoon. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. Hey, I said softly. She didn't cry. Not right away. She just looked at me like I was a ghost. I stepped forward, dropping my bag gently by the wall. Didn't know if I should knock. She set the spoon down. You didn't answer any of my texts. I know. She crossed her arms, not defensive, just holding herself together. So why now? I exhaled, glancing at the floor. I saw the album. Her breath hitched. You posted all those photos. Us. The life I thought we'd lost. I looked up at her. You looked at me in those pictures the same way you looked at that photo on your phone that morning. I didn't see it then, but I see it now. She nodded slowly, eyes glistening. It was always about us, Nick. Not him. Not even close. I stepped closer. I think I panicked. I made it about something it wasn't because it hurt, and I didn't know what else to do with that feeling. I know, she whispered. It hurt me too. The way you left. Silence stretched between us. Then I said it. The question that had haunted me since I packed that bag. Did you ever wish your life had turned out differently? She blinked, one tear falling loose. No. Never. Not once. You sure? My voice cracked. Because sometimes I don't feel like enough. She stepped forward, close now. You are. You always have been. I just miss us, Nick. The version of us that didn't get so tired all the time. That touched more. Talked more. I nodded. Me too. She reached out and put her hand on my chest. We can fix this. If you're willing. I covered her hand with mine. I am. She leaned into me, and I wrapped my arms around her, burying my face in her hair. The pot on the stove started to bubble over, but neither of us moved. We just held on. Because the mess could wait. Right now, We were finally home. It took time. Even after coming home, things between us weren't suddenly back to normal. We moved through the house like people carrying something fragile together, carefully, deliberately, trying not to drop it. But we were trying. That part mattered more than anything. We started eating at the table again, not the couch. Phones stayed face down during dinner. Sometimes we talked, sometimes we didn't. But it wasn't that empty silence anymore. It was softer, warmer. One night, about 3 weeks after I came back, we were brushing our teeth when her phone lit up on the counter. Just a little buzz. A name I didn't recognize flashed across the screen. Some guy from work. Late hour. I didn't say anything, but I stared. She noticed. "You can look if you want," she said, mouthful of toothpaste. No defensiveness in her voice. Just calm. I shook my head. "It's not about that, Nick." I wiped my mouth with a towel and leaned against the sink. I still get those flashes. Not all the time, but sometimes. Like a scene just replays in my head and I can't stop it. She leaned against the opposite wall, arms crossed. "I get it. I don't want to be that guy, though. The one who checks your phone or scrolls through your likes. That's not who I am." "I know." She looked at me for a long time. That's why I offered. She walked over, picked up her phone, and held it out to me. "I'm not hiding anything, and I don't want you to feel like I am." I looked at it, then back at her. "I trust you," I said, "even when it's hard." She smiled gently and put the phone back down. That became our thing. Not blind trust, not forced reassurance. Just saying it when we needed to. I started telling her when I got caught up in those spirals. She started telling me when she was feeling lonely or unsure, instead of bottling it up. We made new habits. Weekly walks after dinner, even just around the block. Sunday morning pancakes again. She left sticky notes in my lunch. I brought her gas station coffee just the way she likes it, too sweet, too milky. None of it fixed us overnight. But one night, she laughed at something I said and covered her face with her hands like she used to. I hadn't seen that version of her in months. That was the moment I knew. We weren't just patching things up. We were building something better. From scratch. Together. It was 6 months later when we stood under a string of patio lights in our backyard, holding hands like it was the first time. The air smelled like grass and citronella candles. Folding chairs lined the lawn. Marissa's sister handled the music. Adam manned the grill. About 20 people showed up, just close friends and a few relatives we actually liked. We didn't send formal invites. No fancy decorations. No centerpieces or choreographed dances. Just a cooler full of drinks, a Bluetooth speaker, and a lot of paper plates. It was perfect. Marissa wore a light blue sundress. Her hair was down, soft curls catching the breeze. I wore a button-up and jeans. We didn't rehearse anything. Didn't write anything down. Just promised what we could, standing there, palms pressed together, hearts still scarred, but open. "I promise to tell you what I'm feeling, even when I'm scared you won't like the answer," she said, eyes locked on mine. "And I promise to choose us, even on the days we don't feel like a fairy tale." I nodded, blinking back the heat behind my eyes. "I promise to listen," I said, "and not just to your words, but to the silences too. I promise to come home, not just to the house, but to you. Always." There wasn't a dry eye in the yard. Someone sniffled. I think it was Adam. When we kissed, the crowd clapped, not the polite kind, but the real kind. The kind that made you feel seen. Later, as the sun dipped low and the lights above started to glow stronger, Adam stood up to give a toast. He tapped his plastic cup with a fork until people hushed. "Look," he said, clearing his throat, "I'll be honest. When Nick showed up at my place looking like a wet dog, I figured that was it. Game over. Marriage done. Laughter. But then something weird happened," he went on. "They talked. They listened. And they rebuilt. Not something shiny or filtered for Instagram. Something real. Something better." He raised his cup. "To second chances. And to not running when the foundation cracks, to picking up the bricks and building again, together." We all raised our cups. Marissa was laughing when I looked at her, head tilted back, eyes crinkled, just like in the old photos. That laugh did something to me. It didn't erase the pain we'd walked through. It didn't undo the confusion, the questions, or the night I slept on Adam's lumpy futon. But it anchored me. In that backyard, surrounded by the people who mattered, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Certainty. Not the kind you say out loud or post online. The kind that lives in your chest, steady and quiet. She was still my wife. And I was still hers. Later that night, after everyone left and the string lights had dimmed to a warm flicker, we stood in the kitchen surrounded by half-empty bowls of chips and a tray of untouched brownies. Marissa was barefoot, humming to herself as she rinsed out a wine glass. Her hair was a little messy, cheeks flushed from laughter and wine. I was leaning against the counter, watching her, feeling the quiet settle in. She glanced over her shoulder. "You remember when you used to dance with me in here?" I smirked. "That was like 10 years ago. More like 5, she said. "And yeah, I remember. You used to pull me in while the pasta boiled and spin me around like we had all the time in the world. I chuckled. I had moves back then. You had 2 left feet. I walked over and grabbed my phone off the table. Still got those moves, I said, pulling up a playlist. I hit shuffle and let whatever came up decide the moment. It was an old song, one we used to play on road trips. Nothing special, just simple guitar and lyrics about getting lost and starting over. I held out my hand. She looked at it for a second like she wasn't sure if I was serious. Then she smiled and took it. We started swaying slowly, barefoot on the tile, the hum of the fridge keeping time with the music. My hand rested on her lower back. Hers slipped around my neck. Our bodies knew the rhythm, even if our steps didn't. She rested her head on my chest. I miss this, she murmured. Me too. There was something so stupidly perfect about the way our feet bumped into each other, the way we laughed every time I almost stepped on her toes. No choreography, no cameras, just 2 people who'd gone through something hard and somehow found their way back. I pressed my lips to her forehead. I know it's not always going to be easy. She nodded. But we show up. We keep dancing, even when the music skips, even when we forget the steps. Eventually, the song ended, but we didn't let go. We just stood there, holding on, letting the silence wrap around us like a blanket. That moment wasn't flashy. It wouldn't go viral or be framed on a wall, but it was real, and that was enough. I used to think love was about the big moments, the anniversaries, the vacations, the milestones. But now I know better. It's this. It's dancing in the kitchen with bare feet and takeout containers on the counter. It's showing up after the worst parts and choosing to stay anyway. We weren't chasing the past anymore. We were making new memories. One step at a time. One late-night kitchen dance at a time. And this time, we were dancing towards something that felt unshakable.